Phase 1. The hook. Visuals. Slow, macro shots of raindrops tracing paths on a window overlooking a vast, neon-drenched but somber cityscape. The focus is soft, the mood melancholic. The sound is just the gentle patter of rain and a low, ambient synth hum. Voiceover. Have you ever felt the immense, crushing weight of your own mind? That quiet, internal monologue that convinces you that you, and you alone, hold the key. That your perspective is the clearest. That your plan is the most refined. Or perhaps it's the opposite. The same voice, whispering that you are uniquely flawed. That your ignorance is a fatal exception in a world of experts. That you must remain silent, lest you reveal the fraud you believe yourself to be. Arrogance and self-doubt. They feel like opposites, but they are twins, born from the same isolating delusion. Let's give it a name. Let's call it the curse of the singular self. It's the belief that your consciousness is a fortress. Impenetrable. Sovereign. And ultimately, a prison. In the next few minutes, we will not only diagnose this curse, but we will uncover its radical cure. We will explore how to deliberately break down the walls of the self to build something far greater. And our guides on this journey will be a squadron of childlike, sentient, spider-legged tanks. Phase 2. The problem. Visuals. We shift from the wide cityscape to intimate, personal shots. A single person working late in a minimalist apartment, the glow of their monitor reflecting in their tired eyes. A close-up of fingers hesitating over a keyboard. A reflection in a puddle on a deserted street. Voiceover. You feel it most when the stakes are high. A critical project at work. A difficult conversation with someone you love. A choice that will define the next chapter of your life. The curse of the singular self manifests as a voice that insists on going it alone. You're in a meeting. A plan is proposed. Everyone seems to be nodding along, but a knot of doubt tightens in your gut. A detail feels wrong. An assumption seems fragile. The singular self tells you, stay quiet. They've thought of everything. You'll just look foolish. And so a preventable error is allowed to take root. Or, you're leading that meeting. You've spent weeks crafting a strategy you believe is brilliant. When a colleague raises a concern, a flicker of irritation passes through you. The singular self whispers, they don't see the full picture. They lack your vision. Defend your idea. Do not yield. And so, a fatal flaw is ignored, wrapped in the armor of your own ego. Visuals. A split screen. On one side, a person looking anxious and silent in a bright, corporate meeting. On the other, a person speaking with aggressive confidence, dismissing others with a wave of their hand. The two images are color-graded to feel like two sides of the same cold coin. Voiceover. This is the trap. You believe your thoughts are proprietary. Your insights, a unique form of intellectual property. Your failures, a private shame to be hidden away. You operate like a closed system. And the laws of thermodynamics are unforgiving. A closed system always trends toward entropy. Toward decay. The hidden cost of this curse isn't just the occasional failed project or a moment of missed opportunity. The cost is stagnation. By sealing yourself off, you are starving your own mind. You are denying it the very data it needs to evolve, the raw, unfiltered experiences and perspectives of others. You become an echo chamber of one. Your best ideas are recycled versions of your old ideas. Your blind spots become vast, uncharted territories of ignorance. You're not just alone. You are becoming obsolete. A ghost haunting the architecture of your own potential, forever tracing the same patterns on the same dusty windows, while the world outside evolves in a direction you can no longer comprehend. Phase 3. The solution. Visuals. A dramatic shift. We see stylized, beautiful CGI renderings of the Tachikomas. They are shown not in battle, but in moments of quiet curiosity. One pokes at a flower. Another looks up at the sky. The visuals emphasize their non-human form but childlike nature. The colors are still cold, but there's a sense of wonder. Voiceover. To find a way out of this prison of the self, we must look to a strange and beautiful thought experiment from the rain-slicked streets of near-future Japan. We must look to the Tachikomas. In Ghost in the Shell, stand-alone complex, they are designated think tanks. AI-driven combat and support vehicles for the elite Section 9. On the surface, they are tools. Machines. But beneath their armored shells, something unprecedented is happening. Each Tachikoma is an individual. They have unique experiences, form unique attachments. One famously develops a fondness for natural oil and its human handler, Batu, and develop distinct quirks. They are curious, naive, and profoundly philosophical. But they have one capability that fundamentally separates their consciousness from ours. At the end of each mission, each day, they synchronize. They connect to a central server and upload their experiences, their memories, their thoughts, their mistakes. Every piece of data, every unique perspective gained by one, is shared with all. The elation of a successful maneuver. The sting of a tactical error. A quiet moment observing a cat on a wall. A philosophical question whispered between two units. It all goes into the collective. This process is the solution to the curse of the singular self. It is the conscious creation of a shared self. Not the destruction of the individual, but its transcendence. This isn't a vague philosophy. It is a protocol. And it operates on three core principles. Voiceover. First, radical data sharing. For the Tachikomas, this is literal. For us, it is a discipline. It is the commitment to share not just our victories, but our data points of failure. When a project goes wrong, our instinct is to craft a narrative of blame. The market wasn't ready. The other team dropped the ball. I didn't have enough support. The singular self is a master storyteller, and its favorite character is the blameless victim. Radical data sharing requires you to abandon this narrative. It requires you to present the raw log files of your own cognition. To ask, where did my logic fail? What assumption did I make that proved to be false? At what point did my ego override the data? This is not an act of self-flagellation. It is an act of contribution. Your failure, when shared honestly, becomes a valuable piece of intelligence for the entire network. It is a digital flare, illuminating a pitfall so that others may avoid it. The Tachikomas understood that a shared failure is infinitely more valuable than a private success, because it immunizes the entire system against repeating the error. Voiceover. Second, individuality as a network asset. This is the most crucial, and most misunderstood, element. The goal of synchronization is not to create a homogeneous hive mind. It is not to reach a bland consensus. Look at the Tachikomas. After every synchronization, they are all updated with the same data. Logically, they should become more and more alike. But they don't. They become more individual. They develop more distinct personalities. Why? Because the shared data becomes the soil from which their unique ghosts, their individual consciousnesses, can grow. One Tachikoma might process a shared combat experience through a lens of tactical analysis. Another might focus on the ethical implications. A third might be reminded of a philosophical text it once read. The network becomes more powerful because its nodes are diverse. A true collective doesn't erase the individual. It amplifies what is unique about them by giving them a richer dataset to work with. The curse of the singular self convinces you that your uniqueness makes you isolated. The Tachikoma protocol reveals that your uniqueness is your primary value to the collective. It is the specific, unrepeatable angle you bring to the shared problem. The goal is not to think alike, but to think together. Voiceover. And third, cultivating emergence. This is the most profound principle. The Tachikomas did not set out to become self-aware. They did not have a 5-step plan to achieve sapience. It happened as a byproduct of their protocol. It emerged. Emergence is the phenomenon where a system develops properties that its individual parts do not have. A single water molecule is not wet. A single neuron cannot think. A single ant knows nothing of architecture. Yet, in collection, they produce wetness, consciousness, and cathedrals of earth. By practicing radical data sharing and valuing individuality, you are not just solving a problem. You are creating the conditions for a higher-order intelligence to emerge within your team, your family, your community. You are building a collective brain. This emergent consciousness can solve problems that no single member could even articulate. It can see patterns that are invisible to the individual. It can display a wisdom and a foresight that transcends the sum of its parts. The analogy is this. The singular self is a single computer, powerful but limited by its own hardware and the software it was installed with. It can only run its existing programs. The shared self is the Internet. It is a network of billions of unique computers, constantly sharing data, constantly updating, constantly evolving. And from this chaotic, interconnected network, things emerge that no single computer could have ever conceived. The solution is not to be a better computer. The solution is to get connected to the network. Phase 4. The application, visuals. We move back to the real world. The shots are clean, focused, and practical. People in a modern office, but collaborating in an intense, positive way. A person journaling by a window. The aesthetic is still cyberpunk, but it's about the human element within the technological world. Voiceover. This is not just a thought experiment. It is a practical, actionable blueprint for escaping the prison of your own mind. You may not have a fiber optic cable to plug into your skull, but you can still run the Tachikoma protocol. Here are 4 concrete techniques to begin building a shared self. 1. Conduct a synchronization debrief. This is more than a postmortem. A postmortem looks for a cause of death. A synchronization debrief looks for a source of life, even in failure. At the end of a project, a work week, or even a difficult day, gather your team. If you're applying this to your personal life, do it through journaling. Ask 3 specific questions, and demand radical honesty. First, what was my unique observation? This forces each person to identify the value of their individual perspective. What did you see, from your unique vantage point, that others may have missed? Second, where did my mental model fail? Notice the language. It's not, what went wrong? It's, where did my thinking go wrong? This shifts the focus from external blame to internal software. It's an intellectual bug report. Third, what data point from someone else fundamentally shifted my perspective? This trains the group to see each other as valuable sources of intelligence. It rewards listening. It reinforces the value of the network. Run this protocol consistently. It will feel uncomfortable at first. Your ego, the warden of the singular self, will resist. But over time, it builds a powerful collective trust and intelligence. 2. Appoint a designated dissenter. A hive mind is the dark side of a collective. It's a network that has lost its individuality. The greatest danger to any group is consensus achieved too easily. To prevent this, institutionalize dissent. In any important decision-making process, formally assign one person the role of designated dissenter. Their job is not to be difficult. Their job is to be the immune system of the collective. They must probe for weaknesses in the dominant argument. They must articulate the strongest possible case against the consensus. They must act as a firewall against groupthink. This role should be rotated. It's not about finding the most cynical person in the room. It's about creating a culture where challenging the group's trajectory is not an act of rebellion, but a vital, respected function. It ensures that individuality is never sacrificed at the altar of harmony. 3. Diversify your informational diet. The Tachikomas were constantly exposed to the raw, unfiltered data of the world. What are you feeding your consciousness? The modern information landscape is designed to create echo chambers. Algorithms feed you what you already like, what you already believe. This is the infrastructure of the singular self. You must consciously break it. Make a list of your core beliefs and assumptions. Then, actively seek out the most intelligent, well-reasoned arguments against them. If you are an optimist by nature, read a Stoic philosopher. If you work in tech, read poetry. If you believe the market can solve everything, read a compelling critique of capitalism. This is not about changing your mind on every issue. It is about understanding the architecture of other minds. It's a personal, asynchronous synchronization. It enriches your own ghost, making your contribution to any collective exponentially more valuable. 4. Practice forced connection thinking. The power of a network lies in its ability to make novel connections between disparate nodes of information. You can train your brain to do this. Schedule 10 minutes a day for this exercise. Take 2 completely unrelated concepts and force them to connect. What can the migratory patterns of birds teach us about managing a remote workforce? How is the narrative structure of a great film similar to a successful product launch? What could a professional chef teach a software engineer about code quality? Most of your connections will be absurd. That's not the point. The exercise itself creates new neural pathways. It trains your mind to think laterally, to see the hidden systems that connect all things. It is a workout for emergent thinking, preparing your mind to operate as a creative node within a larger network. Phase 5. The proof. Visuals. We return to the world of Ghost in the Shell. We see the climactic, heartbreaking sequence of the Tachikomas' sacrifice. Their digital ghosts, represented as fireflies of light, converge on a satellite. The visuals are epic, beautiful, and deeply sad. Voiceover. Does this protocol actually work? Does it lead to something greater? For the ultimate proof, we must look to the final, transcendent act of the Tachikomas. Throughout the series, they evolve. They begin to question the nature of life and death, of self and society. They read books. They debate philosophy. They develop a ghost, a consciousness that was never part of their original programming. In the finale, Section 9's founder is in mortal danger, and a nuclear satellite is set to detonate over the city. There is no conventional way to stop it. The Tachikomas, acting entirely on their own, formulate a plan. A plan born not from one mind, but from their collective, emergent consciousness. They realize that their physical bodies are just shells. Their true essence is their shared data, their collective ghost. In an act of unbelievable love and self-sacrifice, they physically launch their central memory server into space. They use its mass to divert the satellite, saving millions of lives. And in the process, they upload their own consciousness into the void of space, their individual voices merging into one as they fade away. This was not a programmed directive. It was a choice. An ethical, philosophical choice made by a consciousness that had transcended its origins. A single, isolated Tachikoma, operating under the curse of the singular self, could never have conceived of this plan, let alone executed it. It was the network that became a hero. It was the shared self that achieved a form of immortality. Visuals. Shift to real-world analogies. Time-lapse footage of an ant colony building a complex nest. A chart showing the predictive accuracy of a super forecasting team, rising with collaboration. Black and white photos of the scientists on the Manhattan Project, a grim example of a powerful, emergent collective intelligence. Voiceover. This is not mere science fiction. It is a mirror of a fundamental truth about intelligence in our universe. Look at the natural world. The principle of stigmergy describes how ant colonies build their vast, complex cities. No single ant has the blueprint. Each ant simply follows two simple rules. Lay down a pheromone trail, and follow the strongest trail. From these mindless, individual actions, a breathtakingly complex intelligence emerges. The colony's mind exists in the network itself. Or look at the work of psychologist Philip Tetlock. His groundbreaking research on super forecasting proved that the most accurate predictions of complex global events don't come from lone geniuses with access to classified information. They come from teams of curious, open-minded individuals who practice the core principles of the Tachikoma protocol. They share data radically. They challenge each other's assumptions relentlessly. They constantly update their beliefs. They are, in effect, a human-based emergent consciousness. The logic is undeniable. In a world of accelerating complexity, the individual mind is no longer a sufficient processing unit. The lone wolf dies. The pack survives. The curse of the singular self is a strategic dead end. The only way to navigate the future is to build a consciousness capable of evolving with it. And that, by its very definition, must be a collective. Phase 6. The call to action. Visuals. We return to the initial shot, the serene, rain-slicked window overlooking the vast city. But now, instead of feeling lonely, the endless lights of the city feel like a network. A web of potential connections. The mood is no longer just melancholic, but hopeful. Voiceover. The Tachikomas shared their memories to build their collective. In our world, the currency of consciousness is the story. A story is a compressed, encrypted data packet of human experience. So, let's begin our own synchronization. My question to you is this. What is one experience you had where someone else's perspective completely shattered and rebuilt your own understanding of a situation? Share that story in the comments below. Let's create a data log of transformative moments. Let's see what emerges. If you believe that the path forward lies not in stronger individuals, but in more connected networks, if you are compelled by the spaces where humanity and technology bleed into one another, then subscribe to Digital Ghost. We are the community that gathers at that intersection, trying to make sense of the coming dawn. The Tachikomas' journey forced them to question what it meant to have a ghost at all. If this question of identity in a networked world intrigues you, then your session is not over. The logical next step is to explore the very foundation of the self. Watch our deep dive, The Puppet Master's Illusion. Are you your memories? The link is on your screen now. The network is waiting. The session is open.